Hello, listeners. Welcome to Brewing Talks, the perfect marketing concoction. And I'm Madhulika, your host, and I'm also an entrepreneur and a brand consultant. And I'm very glad to once again say that we are in a very, very popular season two. We have had a very amazing start just a month back with some very creative mindset talking on different topics that we have covered so far. And we are after a very short, because it was like the vacation and the Christmas and the New Year time, we are back after a very short break. So first of all, let me wish all you listeners a very, very happy and a healthy New Year. And with this, I think we are, I'm very excited to have today's guest on show. And this one topic that I've been thinking of late, and I was wondering who should I actually connect with, because it's a topic that I think all of us wants to, listen to and converse or talk about, right? Because it's something that we are consuming on a daily basis today. I personally am too. So let me first come to the topic that we are actually going to focus on this big ecosystem and a big world of quick commerce, as they say, right? And I think I can't name one brand. There are several brands that are existing in the industry today, and it's just going to grow from here on. In fact, I was reading somewhere that the quick commerce industry is going to grow 15 times in 2025, exactly the year that we are sitting at today. So to dwell on this topic and converse on this very interesting area of the brands that are connecting and getting into this industry, I have with me Abhishek Shetty, who heads the brand marketing for Swiggy Instamart. Welcome to Brewing Talks, Abhishek.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madhulika. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Very
it's a
interesting.
pleasure. And as I said, it's a very, very interesting topic. And I'm very certain that the listeners are very eager to understand your perspective and overall the industry perspective of how things are shaping up, and, how's the marketing shaping up for this sector specifically, right?
Yeah.
So, and also I would want to tell the listeners that Abhishek has been in marketing for several years. He's been, associated with various brands, whether it's Celio, he's also associated with brands like Sony Live. So he's been exposed to different sectors, different industries, and now he's focusing on, as I said, one of the fastest growing areas of business and e-commerce. So Abhishek, I think very importantly, before we move on to the nitty gritties, I think I would understand from your perspective, as we see this sudden surge in this quick commerce, right? All
Yeah.
of a sudden, we see so many brands coming up. What is driving this trend so much? Like, I'm sure there's this consumers, and especially the Gen Zs and the millennials, are really, wanting to, go for something like a quick commerce solution for shopping or whatever. But what are the other trends that are driving this whole thing?
Yeah. I think, a lot of people are today surprised by the way quick commerce is sort of growing. For me, I think it's not a mere coincidence, right? I think it's a result of several macro and micro level trends
Hmm.
that are essentially shaping consumer behavior and industry practices, right?
Okay.
One big trend is the instant gratification economy.
Hmm.
I think consumers today expect everything on demand. Whether it's entertainment, whether it's food, whether it's transportation. We're sort of in that era. And I feel quick commerce in a certain sense aligns perfectly with this mindset. It eliminates the waiting period for both essential and impulse purchases, right? The second trend, I also feel that's playing a major role is hyper urbanization. um, Urban lifestyles, I feel today are far far busier, and I think uh, quick commerce in a certain sense fills this time gap, by
Hmm.
bringing the store to your phone, right? It's just
Hmm.
added a extra layer of convenience.
Hmm.
I think all of this is also made possible today because of a lot of the tech driven scalability that's happened, right? There's been a lot of advancements in logistics. There's a lot of AI that's come in. There's a lot of hyper local
Hmm.
supply chains, right, that have made
Right.
it
Right.
possible to deliver products in under 10 minutes, right? It's unfathomable to think how quickly your products get delivered these days, right? You couldn't imagine something like this happening a decade back. Like for example, with Swiggy Instamart's dark store network, we have a lot of data driven inventory planning for that matter, which ensures that speed is not compromised by scale. Um,
Okay.
that's one. There are some other trends also, right? There is an evolving shift that's happening from stocking to just in time purchasing. I think consumers no longer feel the need to stock up when
Correct.
when they can order whenever they need it. And I think the shift is particularly evident in a lot of the urban areas where
Yeah.
space is a constraint, right? And I think the evolution of quick commerce is also happening in areas where space is a constraint. And lastly, I feel the post pandemic, the cultural shift post the pandemic, right? I think the pandemic really accelerated adoption of e-commerce in general. I think the first
Yes.
evolution in e-commerce happened when we started cash on delivery. And I think the second real evolution happened post the pandemic, right? So quick commerce is the way I see it, is a natural evolution to traditional e-commerce. I feel it bridges the gap between say traditional e-commerce and physical retail. In a certain sense, it offers the best of both worlds, right? So lastly, I think when we promise 10-minute delivery at Swiggy Instamart, I think it essentially taps directly into the zeitgeist, right? Whether it's an urgent need, like for example medicines, or you're craving snacks in the middle of watching a OTT show, you're
Yeah.
binging. The aim and the way we are trying to sort of go about it is, how do we make ourselves an indispensable part of your everyday life?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, interesting. So I think you said this one word to me. I mean, when you said that there's a lot of approach of just in time, sort of a shopping
yeah,
concept, which I think the pandemic has a lot to do with this, because we remember the time when we were wanting a lot of products and services to be delivered, but they were not available. So we decided to make do with whatever we have,
correct,
right? And that eventually also finally evolve to a area where we need what we need now, and we may
correct,
not want to stock it for the future, sort of
right,
thing. So
right,
that concept is definitely giving a rise. So but then, and we also know the fact that, Abhishek, e-commerce existed for many years, right? We understand even Big Bazaar started this online delivery concept.
correct.
Big Basket has been known for online delivery for a while now.
Yeah,
But suddenly this quick commerce part of wanting things at your doorstep in 8 minutes, like I see in my app, I see that the person is traveling and coming to deliver to me in another 2 minutes.
yeah,
So is it also to do with, are we becoming more impulsive as shoppers or something, like, as you said, it's also about that last minute craving. So with the last minute craving, when I see that, oh, I can add this product also to my to my cart.
yeah.
So is it also, is impulsiveness also shaping up quick commerce, or is it because I'm an impulsive shopper, I'm going to use more of such channels compared to someone like planning a month ka grocery thing or a month ka wanting thing, except the medicine I'm not counting, because
Yeah,
that's something you might just require at any given point of time.
yeah. No, there is definitely a very strong growth in impulse purchases that we're seeing, right? So if you look at the journey of even quick commerce, I think it started off with very ubiquitous categories like grocery, right? Which is essentially, it started by fulfilling people's distress needs, which is, people would still do a lot of monthly shopping and stock groceries, but say they would forget something, and that's why they would probably come to a quick commerce platform to fulfill some end minute distress need, or something that they've forgotten, or they suddenly have guests at their house. And I think in the last 1.5 year, I've seen that significantly evolving, right?
Yeah.
I think consumers are now, a lot of the younger consumers especially, are born into the era of quick commerce, right? For them, quick commerce is a natural way of shopping. It's not just, why wait for a day or two when you can get it in 10 minutes? Is the funda with which they operate with, and for them it's very natural to actually go in for skincare, personal care, hair care, right, move beyond the traditional grocery categories into grocery plus plus categories, as well as
Right.
a lot of the newcomers categories as well. So I think it's the space is evolving very rapidly.
Hmm.
It's essentially becoming a 10-minute store for anything and everything that you want.
Right, right. Perfect. So Swiggy, I mean, Swiggy, we've known for food deliveries
Yeah,
for many, many years, right? But let's come to Swiggy Instamart,
yeah.
like, because we're talking about quick commerce right now. So first of all, tell us a little more about what this brand proposition is about, and how does Swiggy Instamart differentiate itself from its comset? Because when I say comset, I think there are several players today, right?
Correct.
So how are you differentiated? Because at the end of the day, if it's a 10-minute delivery proposition, I mean, even the other brand is saying the same thing, right? So how do I look different? How do I appear different in terms of the customer preferences as such?
Correct. Look, if actually talk about Swiggy, right? I think Swiggy has is a house of brands today, right? And
Okay.
we are essentially something that we pride ourselves in, and a value that we live in day in and day out, and sort of a mission, daily mission is providing unparalleled convenience to our consumers. So if you
Mm-hmm.
look at all the business units of and all the brands that have come under the Swiggy realm, right? It's essentially trying to live this mission. Whether it's providing instantaneous food delivery, 10 minutes food delivery, whether it's grocery delivery, whether it's getting a product from point A to point B with Swiggy Genie and many other units, right? Swiggy Instamart started off, during COVID. It was essentially a way to say how can we make lives easier and convenient for our consumers, from a grocery buying perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
other categories as well. So that's how
Okay.
Swiggy sort of evolved, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you bring in a very very relevant, pertinent question, which is how do you differentiate in such an intense category? It's a
Correct.
very ubiquitous category where
Correct.
brands have to constantly differentiate themselves. I think the idea is you cannot view yourself only as a commerce platform, right? The aim is, as a brand, can you really understand and integrate yourselves into the lives of the consumer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the biggest differentiator is the kind of assortment strategy that you have, right? We
Mm.
constantly focus on what is it, uh, building the right breadth of
Mm-hmm.
categories for your consumers, whether it's personal care, groceries, tech accessories. Let me give you an example. India is also a country with a lot of festivals, right?
Mm.
So during
Yeah.
festive occasions, we constantly aim to keep very curated assortments, which could include puja essentials. It could be festive snacks, decorative items. Essentially position yourself as a one-stop shop, to for all occasions, right? And if you're able to do this consistently over a period of time across every single state and city in the country in a very
Mm-hmm.
hyper local manner, that's one way of building consistent, and it's easier said than done, right? Because it means a lot of hyper local excellence in execution. So I think that's what we pride ourselves in. The
Mm-hmm.
second is, you need to, the 10-minute delivery isn't just a gimmick. It's backed by data driven. It's backed by a lot of robust network of dark stores, a lot
Yeah.
of tech enabled routing that happens. So it's not just a marketing promise, it's something that we live day in and day
Correct.
out, right? And that's
Correct.
what will stay
Absolutely.
with the consumers, right? And I
Absolutely.
think third way, a couple of more ways to sort of build differentiation is also cultural and emotional relevance, and especially even if you look at food delivery, right? It's a similar space. It's a bunch of different companies trying to deliver food to consumers, right? So how do you, as a brand, resonate with consumers beyond functionality? We try to own cultural moments, whether it's through our festive campaigns or pop culture collaborations. We try to ensure that Swiggy Instamart is always top of mind. And I think we've done that. I think Swiggy has built a very very loving brand across every single Indian household today through that. We also, I think, strategic collaborations, I feel, is also very, very evolving space. And I think we've used it well, right? If you look at, we had a very interesting consumer insight with respect to
Okay.
wedding.
Okay.
Indian consumers always are struggling to figure out what to gift a bride and a groom when they're attending a wedding, and most often than not, they actually gift them money, right? We actually tied up with Manish Malhotra to say, can we give Shagun ka lifafas, for example? Right? It was an idea that completely came from a consumer interaction, and we said, and it's been a huge hit. We launched the
Okay.
lifafas. We were actually sold out in the first few days. So I think in a ubiquitous category, it's very important to go beyond functional aspects, create a lot of brand love, and also aim to make your consumers' life richer and easier day in and
Correct.
day out.
Correct. No, no, you said this very interesting because if we just focus on the functional aspect, then we are more or less looking very similar to the overall, brands
Correct.
sitting in this category. But we have to look at many other. I think storytelling is also playing a very big role. The way you are coming
Yeah.
across as a brand, and you use the word brand love. Right? That's
Yeah.
what how it needs to get developed. So. Coming back to the point about campaigns, right? So I mean, we just very recently saw some very amazing campaigns coming out of the portfolio of Swiggy Instamart, right? So I think one which I vividly remember is the ho 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 campaign
Yeah.
of Christmas, right? So
Yeah.
do you want to just tell us about the thought process that went into it? What was the strategy behind it? What kind of tractions you got from? How could you measure the impact? Obviously, one is the viral ad, the whole thing going viral. So besides that, how did you measure the impact that came from your end consumers about this campaign, and what was like the end goal that you were trying to achieve besides making noise in the busy market as
Yeah.
such?
So, we are, as I said, India is has a lot of rich diversity, and but that also brings with it a lot of different cultural moments and festivities, right? And Christmas is again a very, very interesting time of the year. And what we've typically seen during such events and cultural moments and festivities is that there is a lot of positive tailwinds that the category in general sees. Like there's a lot of gifting that happens. There's a lot of inclination to shop. There's a trend of Secret Santa. So for us, we said, hey, this is a great time to sort of build that brand love, and something that we've always sort of take pride in is how do you do human storytelling. Swiggy as a brand, the tonality has also been humorous, right? Over the years, if you've seen the Swiggy ads, it's always been very relatable, humorous, human. And we said, what's the consumer insight over here, right? And we said,
Yeah.
hey, consumers love receiving and giving gifts during Christmas. There's a lot of also growth in households setting up their own Christmas tree with their families. Kids coming up with parents decorating a Christmas tree. It's also become like a cultural moment, right? So we said, how can we really stand out in this sort of an environment? And we said, how can we Indianize the festival, right? And that's where this entire play of ho 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 and oh ho ho by Sukhbir sort of came to life. Some wonderful creative folks at our end who are working on it and bringing it to life, and we all instantaneously fell in love with the idea. We said,
Of course.
this has never been done.
Correct.
And we also wanted to bring the play of a really popular song into play, which is
Yeah. Yeah.
which has stayed with us for generations. And yeah, and in a certain sense, the rest is history, right? We were able to
Yeah.
really cut clutter with that campaign rather than
Correct.
just delivering a very functional message saying, come and buy gifts from our platform. It was the way we said it, really loved it. And we wanted to position Instamart as your platform to enable gifting and, your Santa of sorts, right? Which is what we've been trying to
Correct.
do. And
Correct.
I think we did that. The
Yeah.
campaign was very,
Absolutely.
very well received. I think how do we measure success in a few ways, right? One is organically the campaign, got shared, spoken about a lot. The organic reach of the campaign was very solid. So it did have a positive impact on mind metrics like consideration, top of mind awareness, etc. But also the business side of things, right? How well do you do? Because some of these events are 2 days, 3 day phenomena. So how does that impact your traffic on your platform? How does that impact other business metrics like GMV, sales, output growth, etc. So we did see positive movement and traction across all these metrics.
Okay, wonderful, great. No, so I mean, less can be said, about the campaign that actually resonated very, very strongly, because obviously it had a punch because of the whole concept of the ho translating into that Punjabi
Yeah,
version, right? So
yeah,
I think these are the ways that brands can actually get a wider attention from the, and you use the word cut the clutter, right? And
yeah,
that's where we are in a very noisy environment currently,
correct.
including the social media, right? So anything that helps us be in the limelight is what is definitely going to work. Coming to the point of what's your media mix, or let's say if I talk about a broader version of this category as a whole. So while it's a complete digital first sort of an experience to the consumers, right? Everything is on the app. So what we also like about quick commerce, the way they're shaping up their app environment and their whole experience on the app itself is marketing on its own. So for example, let's say during the festive time,
Hmm.
the entire homepage gets customized, right? It's a full personalized treatment given to the way it appeared during the Diwali time, which
Hmm.
I remember, right? And now it appeared during the Christmas time. You will again shift it to something now during the upcoming festivals lined up. So and then it very nicely pushes notification too with your festive shopping and everything. So that in itself is a very effective
Yeah,
one-on-one marketing that you're doing with your consumers.
correct.
But when you talk about bringing this digital product out in the market,
Yeah.
what's your mostly what are the ways you have a media mix? What's your ideal media mix? Where are you investing more? Is it more of the outdoor? Is it more of the print? Is it more of tvcs also, or is there anything specific that you carry forward for the rest of the year, sort of a thing?
So, I mean, almost every single user today who uses quick commerce, e-commerce platforms is a digitally native audience, right? So intuitively, the channel strategy, the digital platform, very intuitively makes sense because it's there is great amount of synergy, right? You discover something on a digital platform, you adopt it, you download it, and you start using it, right? So it's very seamless. And I think the least amount of friction also lies in that sort of a consumer journey. So for us, we do engage very, very highly with the digitally native audience because we feel they are the most likely to adopt and move into quick commerce. So while quick commerce about a year back was a lot about the early adopters, we're also seeing a lot of migration happen today, right? A lot of new to category users are coming in month on month, right? So the digital realm itself has endless possibilities and potential that it
Okay.
offers us, right? So we really focus on that,
Okay.
and we're usually very, very idea first, right? It's not so much, hey, we want to go and make a film, or hey, we want to go and do an outdoor. We What we really focus on is consumer backward thinking, to constantly say, how do we tell a story, right? And what's the most impactful medium to bring our messaging to life, and also the core objective to life, right? And sometimes it's a digital film, sometimes it's a outdoor, sometimes it's a print ad. We did a mango print ad, right, earlier in the
Okay.
year, which smelled of mango, right? And it was completely an idea first approach, right? We asked ourselves, how do we create nostalgia with respect to mangoes, and how do we tell the world that we have some of the best mangoes that you can find, right? So we said, hey, let's make a newspaper smell like a mango. And it took us 2 months to crack it. We were on it for about close to 2 months, but at the end of 2 months we managed to crack it. And we
Okay.
did that ad in only one city, Bombay, right? But it became the most viral print ad of of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And it really traveled to the point that we saw about 1.5x jump in sales numbers, not just in the city that we advertise in, but also in cities. We also saw a very, very positive jump in GMV and sales in cities outside of that.
Okay.
So I think if your idea first, if you know which medium allows you to tell that story the best, I think
Mm-hmm.
that's how we usually do. But on a broader level today, digital plays a very, very critical play. And we use print, television, outdoor, some of these mediums more as impact mediums today.
Correct, absolutely, and especially if you want to reach out to the masses, I think these traditional mediums are still very prevalent, especially in the Indian market, as we say.
That's one. The other thing is also, I think, because of the hyper local nature of the quick commerce industry, today you have a lot of avenues of hyper local advertising, right? Whether it's
Yeah,
society brandings, hyper local
yeah.
screen takeovers. You have a lot of apps which give you which allow consumers, security apps which are mandatory today in a lot of societies across India.
Yeah.
These platforms also give you an option to advertise, and it's very relevant because at the end of the day you're trying to do business in batches of 2 square kilometer radius. So how do you as a marketer, you also need to think about hyper local, uh, relevant language, vernacular advertising at any given point in time. You have to make the brand very
Absolutely.
accessible.
Absolutely, that's true. That's true. Okay, now coming to a different uh, part of the marketing. I don't know if it falls. This is what you all do specifically, but let's talk about the B2B aspect of marketing here, right? So what I mean is that I think the way the quick commerce is operating
Hmm.
functionally, as you
Hmm.
said, is with collaborating with the dark stores, right?
Yeah.
So uh, do you all have a marketing agenda for reaching out to this audience as well, which is very, very crucial and critical for the success of this model, right? So or is it more of a collaboration where there is a specific understanding between the two parties, or is it also to do with what drives from a marketing aspect that makes them sort of believe in you more or believe in the system more? So could you give me throw some line some light on this part as well?
See, at the very high level, it's also network effects, right? As a platform, if you have a lot of consumers flocking to your platform, you'll have more demand, you'll have more people approaching you from a B2B standpoint. Also, you'll have more brands coming to you, you'll have more B2B partners who want to be part of your network, whether it's a dark store network or other B2B partners. So that I think plays out. So from a marketing standpoint, our primary play is obviously at any given point in time is to really penetrate the length and breadth of this country, right? In general, I think a lot of it is also driven by relationships.
Yes.
We really have fantastic category teams who work very, very closely with the big brands, the smaller brands, the D2C brands, the upcoming brands, trying to identify trends in terms of what the consumers are looking for. So that's one part of the B2B play, right? You have to consistently engage with that audience, with your brands, with your brand partners, to build the best possible businesses and do justice by and do right by them as well. And then there's a
Right.
network of people who a little bit more unorganized, who help you put your entire infrastructure together, right? Whether it's last mile operations, whether it's the dark stores. So I think the industry is in a hyper growth phase, right? And so we
Okay.
today have the good fortune of a lot of people approaching the company directly, and because I think a lot of this also has to do with the kind of brand name that Swiggy has also built over the years, right? So I think there is a lot of love, trust with the brand historically, and there's a lot of local nuanced city by city understanding because we've existed through some of the other businesses in the country. So that also greatly helps us. Understanding we are able to cross leverage some of these partnerships and relationships that have already existed. But yes, we do engage with the B2B fraternity, whether it's the brand, whether it's other partners, very, very
Okay.
regular,
Okay.
in order to constantly keep them abreast about what our goals and plans are.
Right, perfect. So, from your experience so far with this segment and the brand in itself, any learnings that you have, Abhishek? Like let's say you did something in the past, but it sort of didn't resonate well or didn't work out well. So, is there learning you want to share with the listeners about what shouldn't be done in the quick commerce category of marketing or branding or something? Is there something, I mean, you wish to share as
So
information?
I'll share I'll share one set of learning for brands, right? Because today we get approached by a lot of brands,
Mm-hmm.
who want to list themselves on quick commerce, who want to be quick commerce first. And I think my key learning over there is what I consistently tell people is don't try to build a brand for quick commerce.
Okay.
Try to build a consumer first brand.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's a bit of a chicken and an egg situation, right? A quick commerce platform will onboard you if you have proof of concept, because there is intense competition within the dark stores today. The dark stores are like a mecca of efficiency today, and that's how it should be, right? It's a per square foot space that you have needs to be hyper optimized,
Mm-hmm.
which can happen only if you have faith that this brand already is something that will do well, sell, is something that the digitally native audience really want, and they'll buy into, right? So I've seen a lot of people faltering, a lot of D2C brands who are just about to start, who try to build for quick commerce, and I feel that's something that we should try to avoid doing. You lose the consumer.
Yeah.
You become channel first, right? Don't be channel first, be consumer first, and
Mm-hmm.
then the
Very
channel
interesting.
strategy will sort of fall in place automatically. Because if you're going to sell, whether you're offline or online and etc., I mean, you'll have
Right.
more e-commerce, you'll have more quick commerce e-commerce companies actually running behind you, right? So that's one for the D2C brand, right? The other learning has essentially for us has been that execution, everyday excellence, is the single largest differentiator in this category, right? You turn up every single day and you try to do the best by the consumer, because you have lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of orders being delivered every single day, right? How do you consistently focus on operations? How do you ensure that your marketing is not just a marketing promise, but it
Mm-hmm.
lives through every part of your value chain,
Right.
right? And you're delivering it day in and day out, right? And
Right.
control. What we've also realized is, for us to give the best possible experience to our end consumers, we need to
Mm-hmm.
have we need to have a lot of control over every aspect of, again, the value chain. Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's last mile operations, whether it's category assortment and building the right products. So
Okay.
that's something that we've really learned over the last few years, and how do we really optimize every part of the value chain within the company, and really own it and internalize it.
Very interesting. That's a very very important insight, I think, for all marketers and business owners. From even I think in general, I think the consumer first strategy always have to be kept in mind. When you're wanting to launch yourself or coming
Correct.
up with your own brand initiatives. Just one point on the AI part. So you said, and rightly so, that AI is artificial intelligence is a very integral part of the entire offerings of the quick commerce platform, because it's very important to keep understanding what the consumers are wanting, and how the patterns of purchasing is happening on the platform. What else is AI being used for when it comes to such brands today?
Look, I think AI itself is evolving very rapidly, right? What you can do now with AI versus what you could do 6 months is changing, has changed significantly, right?
Correct.
For us, we want to we are trying to deploy AI in a manner to say, how do we make every part of our businesses more efficient, whether it's identifying the right kind of inventory strategy and supply chain strategy, or whether it's route optimization. Because at every stage, right? So typically what happens is, when a consumer places an order, and the order is received by a particular dark store, you literally have every second counts, right?
Mm-hmm.
So every second of efficiency that you can bring into the system,
Mm-hmm.
the faster you can deliver to the consumers, right? The big difference between quick commerce and e-commerce also today is the return rates, right? Average return rates in the e-commerce world trend anywhere between 20 to 40% typically, right? The range can be
Okay.
pretty wide. It's far lesser in quick commerce, primarily because the intent for wanting that product and the fulfillment of that product, there is very little delay in that, right? So I feel we are also trying to wrap our heads
Mm-hmm.
around how quickly AI is evolving and how efficiently we can make use of it, whether it's in
Yeah.
marketing, whether it's automating some of our processes, data crunching. So there's a lot of work happening across the organization in teams to
Okay.
say how do we leverage this technology.
Okay.
I
Interesting.
don't think anybody is there yet.
Yeah.
I think it's moving quite fast, and we're
True.
all trying to wrap our heads around it. But it's an interesting time for all
Hmm.
professional, or the entire professional fraternity, on how technology is kind of disrupting this entire game.
Absolutely. Very true. No, great. So I think my final question to you as a part of this conversation, Abhishek, will be to what's the way forward you think is going to be, or you feel is going to be for the e-commerce industry here on? So yes, we heard that. We know it's 10 minutes quick delivery. It's convenience at its best. It's also leading to a bit of an impulsive shopping because when we want to, like, let's talk about when I want to order, let's say suddenly I forget I don't have milk at home and I order milk suddenly and I
Yeah.
decide to add on to almost 5 6 items additional with that because I know it's also giving me free delivery option, not charging me for delivery, right? So it's also to do with impulsive marketing. But what do you think is going to be the way forward as more and more brands are entering into this category? It's going to be like war, right? So how, what's the way forward, do you think, from a marketing aspect, from a brand delivery aspect, or from a consumer aspect? So just give us some inputs on that as well.
Sure, it's a very interesting question, right? So, we always internally discuss what are some of the key consumer trends in this space, right? I feel
Hmm.
um, there is a significant rise of micro moments that's happening, right? Where
Hmm.
shopping is used to be a scheduled activity.
Yeah.
Instead,
Correct.
consumers now shop in the moment, whether
Absolutely.
it's ordering snacks during a
Hmm.
movie, or buying gifts just before a celebration, or replenishing daily essentials. It's micro moments.
Hmm.
The second, a couple of other trends that are also taking place is there is reduced pantry stocking happening, right? There's an old habit where you would stock for weeks. That's changing to as needed purchasing,
Correct.
and get it in minutes. And there is, we already spoke about it, there's increased impulse purchases that's
Hmm.
happening. So if you see, um, cut to a year ago, quick commerce, the kind of uh, the use cases that quick commerce is used to has
Hmm.
significantly changed,
Yeah.
and it will continue to evolve. So
Hmm.
as a platform, it's very critical to keep a close watch on the pulse of the consumer and how it's evolving.
Hmm.
Today,
Yeah.
we said, hey, why can't we deliver medicines in 10 minutes, right? That's, I mean, for example,
Hmm.
it's a friction point, which we can solve for our consumers. You have to constantly, we interestingly did a very we did a tie up with Netflix on one of
Okay.
the biggest IPs called Squid Games, right?
Hmm.
And we delivered some merchandise, Squid Games merchandise across the platform. Again, a huge hit. It's essentially delivering fandom in 10 minutes, right?
Hmm.
It's a very unique proposition, but consumers today watch a show and say, hey, maybe I want something from this. I wanna experience a piece of the show, right?
Hmm.
And you're making it happen today.
Hmm.
Tomorrow there could be concerts that people are going to. They would want to wear some fandom merchandise. Can you make that available? So I feel the possibilities are endless.
Hmm.
You need to, at any given point in time, understand these trends that are changing the way we shop, right? Which could be the
Yeah.
rise of micro moments, reduced pantry stocking, and more impulse purchases. And how can you keep building on that,
Hmm.
consistently build new ways of gratifying these consumers, and new
Right.
ways of getting these consumers to come on the platform. You're also seeing a lot of things like coffee being delivered in 10 minutes. I think all of us in urban India are strapped for time. So every way you can make the life, every way you can make elevate a consumer's life, I
Correct.
think that will have a lot of potential within the quick commerce ecosystem.
Absolutely. So while I kept saying during the conversation that there are a lot of brands entering the market, I think the very reason is because now consumers are moving to this direction, and there's
Yeah,
enough for everyone. There's
correct.
enough of share for everybody. There's a lot of demand, and this demand is only going to grow from here on. I think what is also going to be very relevant is how, as you again coming back to the point, that how we stay at that strategy of getting the consumer in the focus rather than getting off, that you want to be a e-commerce first platform or a quick commerce first platform strategy, right? So I think the consumer has to be the forefront of anything that we do, whether you are an offline brand or an online brand.
Yeah,
But and also I think innovation is going to drive success, right? Innovation
absolutely.
in the way we come across to the consumers in terms of the app experience, or innovation in the way it's delivered at your doorstep when there is a customized packaging for the season done, which
Correct.
makes a lasting impression in the consumer's mind, for example. And also most importantly, from a marketing point of view, I think innovation in the way it's marketed to the consumers, right? From a
Yeah.
messaging, storytelling, and branding perspective. So I think great. I think there were some very, very interesting inputs, and I was really, as I said, wanting to speak to someone on this very, very most popular topic of the season, is what I can say,
Thank you.
right? So Abhishek, thanks so much. I'm sure listeners have definitely have a lot of takeaways to take from your conversation. And once again, thank you for being a part of Brewing Talks.
Thanks, Nikita. That was lovely chatting with you.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Brewing Talks. Thank you for tuning in. Sign up and subscribe to Brewing Talks on eplog.media. You can also listen to this podcast on Ghana, Spotify, Apple, and Google. Catch up soon with our very next episode as I stir up marketing stories only on Brewing Talks.